All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild. It's a groundbreaking experiment called HIKMA, and what they did was build an entire scientific conference, from coming up with the research all the way to presenting it, run almost entirely by AI. Yeah, you heard that right.
So, can an AI really be a scientist? I mean, that's the big question, right? And it's exactly what the HIKMA experiment set out to answer. They didn't just, ask a large language model to spit out a paper. Nope. They tested if an AI could handle the entire scientific journey, from that initial spark of an idea all the way through surviving the brutal peer review process, and even getting up on a virtual stage to present its own findings. I mean, if you think about the AI tools that researchers have right now, they're powerful for sure, but it's kind of the Wild West. You've got all these different fragmented tools. It's a bit of a chaotic mess, frankly. They're hard to trust, and there's almost never a clear audit trail. You can't see how the sausage was made. The HIKMA vision, it was the complete opposite. They wanted to build one single end-to-end system that was totally transparent, a system where you could see and verify every single step along the way.
So let's get into it. To solve this problem, the researchers built HIKMA, and they called it, pretty aptly, a true AI science factory.
So HIKMA, it actually stands for Human-Inspired Knowledge by Machine Agents. And what it was really the first ever attempt to build an entire academic pipeline, from publishing all the way to the final presentation, powered almost entirely by AI. Now, humans were still in the loop overseeing things, but the AI was doing the heavy lifting.
And here's what's really interesting to me. The goal here wasn't about replacing human scientists, not at all. It was about something much more collaborative. They wanted to see if AI could become a truly reliable and auditable partner. A partner that could handle all the tedious grunt work of research, but do it in a way that was completely transparent. Okay, so how did this whole thing actually work? Well, every single paper that the AI generated had to survive this incredibly rigorous, multi-stage trial. Let's just call it what it was, a gauntlet. And this pipeline really shows you the whole journey, soup to nuts. It all starts with the AI grabbing a public data set. Then, bam, it generates a full-blown research paper about it. But that's just the start. That paper then gets peer-reviewed by other AIs. It gets revised, and if it's accepted, the AI turns it into a slide deck, and the digital avatar actually presents it, and only then is it archived and published. It's the entire life cycle all automated. But then comes the toughest test of all, and anyone in academia will tell you this. It's peer review. This is the crucible. It's the make or break stage where great ideas get validated and weak ones just fall apart. So to make sure this wasn't just a rubber stamp process, HIKMA did something really clever. They used two totally different AI reviewer personas for each paper. Think of it like a good cop, bad cop situation. Reviewer 1 was the constructive coach, programmed to be helpful, balanced, and give suggestions. But then you had Reviewer 2, the skeptical critic, and its only job was to be tough, to stress test every single claim and find every possible weakness. And this was the guiding principle for that skeptical critic. The burden of proof lay entirely on the AI author. The reviewer was literally programmed to start from the assumption that the paper was wrong, and it was up to the author to prove it wasn't. This ensured that only the absolute strongest, most well-supported papers could ever make it through. So let's move on to the revision stage, because this is where it gets even more amazing. The process didn't just stop at the review, right? If a paper got sent back for changes, the original authoring AI would handle all the edits. But get this, it would also write a formal letter, a rebuttal, explaining exactly how it addressed every single point from the reviewers, just like a human researcher would do. And then, for the papers that actually made it through all of that, the final step, the AI takes the accepted paper, synthesizes it down into a slide deck, and then an AI-generated avatar actually gets up and presents the research at the virtual HIKMA conference, the whole shebang. Okay, so the whole process is, wow, it's impressive. It's incredibly ambitious. But here's the real question, the one you're probably asking. Did it actually work? Let's look at the final verdict. How many papers actually survived this gauntlet? So at the very beginning, the system kicked things off by generating 60 initial draft papers. Each one was based on a different, unique dataset. Those 60 papers were then thrown into the ring. They faced a grand total of 120 separate, rigorous peer reviews from our two AI agents, the coach and the critic. And so, after all those reviews, all the back and forth, all the revisions, how many made it to the finish line? Just 30. Only half of the papers survived, a 50% acceptance rate. Now that's a really big deal, because it proves this system wasn't just a paper mill churning out nonsense. It had genuinely high standards. So how do we know we can trust those standards? I mean, this is the crucial part. This whole system wasn't some mysterious black box. To ensure complete trust, every single action, every decision, every review, every edit was meticulously recorded in something they called a governance ledger. It's a fully transparent audit trail. And when I say thorough, I mean thorough. This audit trail tracked everything. We're talking the original dataset sources and their licenses, the exact AI model versions that were used, all the reviewer scores and comments, complete revision histories. They even created cryptographic hashes for all the final assets. This made the entire process completely reproducible and transparent. Honestly, that's a level of accountability you rarely see even in human-led science. So, okay, this experiment is way more than just a cool proof of concept. It actually gives us some really powerful lessons for the future, for redefining what research could even look like. So what were the key lessons learned? Well, number one, for people to trust AI in science, you need rigorous documentation. That audit trail is essential. Number two, human oversight is still absolutely critical. You still need a person in the loop. And number three, it turns out the old saying is true. Garbage in, garbage out. The quality of the papers depended entirely on the quality of the datasets. And finally, they realized that getting the scientific community to accept AI research as legitimate, well, that's a cultural challenge, not just a technical one. You know, an experiment like this also surfaces some pretty big ethical risks. For example, how do you stop an AI from spoofing the identity of a real scientist? Or what about silent plagiarism? HIKMA tried to mitigate these things. They explicitly labeled all the avatars as AI and used those opposing reviewers to prevent gaming the system. But it really shines a light on the huge challenges we need to figure out as this technology becomes more common. And this, I think, is maybe the most important takeaway. The researchers themselves said it best in their analysis. Full automation risks loss of interpretive depth and contextual understanding that defines scholarly judgment. In other words, AI can run the process, it can follow the recipe, but it lacks that deep contextual understanding that really defines human scientific judgment. It doesn't get it, not yet anyway. So what this all points to isn't a future where AI replaces scientists. It's a future of powerful human-AI collaboration. Imagine AI handling all the heavy lifting, all the tedious process-driven stuff. That would free up human researchers to do what we do best: think, interpret, and make those incredible creative leaps that lead to real discovery.
Which leaves us with one last big, fascinating question to chew on. If AI starts to automate the process of science, what's the new role for the human scientist? What does it truly mean to be a scientist in the age of AI? It's something we're all going to have to think about.